Welcome to Christ Master Plan, show number 1.
Christ Master Plan. Leaders following their God-given mandate, model, and mission.
So I'm so glad that you joined us today. And today we're going to be talking about Christ Master Plan. But first, we're going to start off with my passion. What am I passionate about? Well, one of the things is that I'm privileged to grow up in a Christian home where my parents were actively involved in sharing Jesus with others. For example, my dad was involved in a bus ministry, and my mother was involved in child evangelism. So for my dad's ministry, what he did was he went around a neighborhood and he knocked on the doors of homes and said, hey, would your children like to come to our Sunday school every Sunday morning? And the parents would say yes or no. And if the parents said yes, then my dad would come along with the bus Sunday morning and pick up the kids and bring them to church. And so I used to tag along with my dad, and that was a lot of fun. In fact, my highlight was having my own bus stop. So I would go before church started, and I would knock on all my friends' doors and invite them to come to church with me. And then we'd all stand at the bus stop, and the bus would come pick them up. And so that was exciting to be able to bring my friends to church. And not only that, to just see them have a great time at church, learning about Jesus. And one thing about that ministry was not only did my dad go to people's homes and invite their children to church, once the kids started coming to church and then the kids started changing, well, they would become Christians and then they would start following Jesus and their lives would change. And then my dad would go back to the homes and set up a time to meet with the parents. And when my dad was meeting with the parents, of course, he would talk about spiritual things, and if they were open, my dad would share the gospel. He would share how the parents could know Jesus personally. And then after one or more of the parents became new believers, then my dad would meet with them weekly to help them get started in their faith. And I think he met with them for a total of 10 weeks, just helping them with the baby food, get started. So that's a little bit about my dad's ministry, and I got to be a part of that and see that. And also, my mother's ministry was with child evangelism. And so what she did was she just came to my sisters and I and said, hey, okay, what I want you to do is go round up all your friends and bring them over to the house. And so, like, say, on a Tuesday afternoon, we'd go round up all our friends. We'd bring them to our living room, and then my mother would tell stories and sing songs and share the gospel. And many of our friends became Christians through that. And then for the kids that became Christians, they would stay after the meeting, and my mother would help them grow in their faith and get started. And here again, through that, my mother was able to talk with many parents and share with the parents about Jesus, especially the mothers of the kids. So I saw that as I grew up, and that was exciting. And then one day, somebody shared the gospel. I heard someone share the gospel, which is pretty amazing because my parents were kind of doing that, right? But I heard this guy share the gospel, and the person shared how, that the bad things I was doing was sin, and that separated me from God. But God sent Jesus to take upon himself all those sins that I committed, and that all I needed to do to have a right relationship with God was to say I'm sorry to God for those wrong things that I was doing and turn towards him. So I did that when I was around 6 years old, and that's when I became a Christian, and that was an exciting time. And so since that time, I've been striving to follow Jesus. And I tell you, it has been an adventure. So in coming weeks, I'll definitely be sharing more about that. Well, one of the things is because God worked in my life and I saw God work in other people's lives and I see lives change, I became passionate about sharing Jesus with others. So, obviously, My parents had a great major influence in my life, and I helped them in their ministry. But also, as I got older, um, my sisters and I, we started helping with the junior high ministry. Even though we were in junior high, we helped out with the ministry, and it's pretty amazing what some junior highers can do. The junior high leader at the time said that God used my sisters and I to help transform and to ignite the junior high ministry so that the junior highers in the group became new believers. So that was exciting. And then as we got older, myself and my sisters got involved with Young Life, and that was really exciting. And then as I graduated from high school, I still helped out with Young Life, and then later on, I got involved with the Navigators. And through the Navigators, God allowed me to help many college students know Jesus. And as God allowed me to help a college student to know Jesus, then what I did was I started inviting the new believers to go to church with me. And as the new believers, which were college students, were coming to church, the youth in the church were going, wow, can you help me to either share my faith with my friends, or could you help me grow in my faith? So one by one, I took the youth in the church and put them in Bible studies with college students. And the youth loved that. They loved being in these Bible studies with the college students. And they grew and they grew. And then finally, the director of the Navigators said, Tim, why don't you just pull all these youth together and start a youth ministry? So, okay. So that was the start of my very first own ministry, my own first personal ministry that God called me to lead. And so through that ministry, it was like, wow, God, this is interesting. You want me to help these youth grow, and you want me to lead a ministry. Well, how do I do that? And so I started looking for training on how to lead a disciple-making youth ministry. Now, I was doing that with college students, but I wasn't sure I could do the exact same thing with youth, so I needed some assurance. So one day I saw in Christianity Today, I saw a little ad that said, learn how to lead a disciple-making youth ministry. And I go, wow, that's cool. So I called the phone number, and I started taking the training. And so this was through Sun Life. I don't know if you're familiar with that group, but it's through Sun Life. And through that group, they said, well, you got to read the Bible and see what Jesus did and try to follow what Jesus did. And I go, wow, that is cool. So I started reading the Bible and started learning exactly how Jesus ran his ministry. And I used the book called The Harmony of the Gospel, which strives to put the life of Christ, at least Christ's ministry years, in order so that you can follow exactly what Jesus did. And of course, how are they supposed to know exactly? So it's close. I can't say it's absolute, but the one thing the Harmony of the Gospel does is it helps you to get a vision of exactly what Jesus did. So from reading the Harmony of the Gospel, it's like, wow, this is cool. And so God showed me some principles that to use in leading a disciple-making ministry. And God ultimately showed me how Jesus used ministry cycles in his ministry to help him to first form a ministry team. And then after forming the ministry team, he and the ministry team going and helping people not interested in spiritual things to become interested. And then once people are interested in spiritual things, to help them become new believers. And then once people are new believers, to help them to become growing believers. And then once somebody is a growing believer, helping them to go and share their faith. So that's what I saw from the Harmony of the Gospel, how Jesus created ministry cycles. All right. Well, what's exciting was God allowed me to do that with the youth, and God allowed me to see fruit. And the interesting thing is that God allowed myself and the ministry team to help people that were youth that were not Christians to become Christians, then to grow in their faith, and then ultimately become part of the ministry team and to share their faith. So that was exciting. So that's kind of a little bit about my ministry pilgrimage. Well, one thing that happened was as, local pastors saw what was happening, and they started saying, Tim, could you teach me how to do the same thing? And so at first, I started writing stuff down and meeting with Christian leaders to train them to do the exact same thing. And so over the years, that's kind of evolved. So it started off as a little small thing, and it's kind of evolved into a major thing. But one thing that took it to a new level, my own personal ministry and sharing how others can follow Christ's master plan, was after I got married. So I got married to a wonderful lady from Barranquilla, Colombia. And after we got married, we did ministry together to college students. And after we did ministry to college students, God allowed us to see fruit. And my wife was so excited that she was sharing with her friends in Colombia, her Christian leader friends from Colombia, about what was happening. They go, wow, could you teach us to do the same thing? So that was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. My wife and I started going to Colombia to train Christian leaders in Colombia to follow Christ's master plan. And it's exciting to see what God's doing. So God's been allowing my wife and I to help leaders here in the United States and in Colombia to follow Christ's master plan. And for me, it's just, like we're talking, how in the world could I ever plan this? I couldn't. It's only God that planned this, and it's a real blessing to be a part of His plans. All right, so over the next couple of shows, we're going to be talking more about issues and especially pertaining to going and making disciples. Well, I hope you enjoyed this show, and please write down your comments or get in contact with us if you have any questions. And look forward to hearing from you, and especially with your comments and your comments. All right. Well, have a great day, and look forward to hearing from you and seeing you at the next show.
Now it's time to go and follow our mandate, motto, and mission.